The other big news is outside of markets, and that is former President Donald Trump's arraignment in Washington, D.C. occurring later this afternoon. The former President Trump is currently on his way there, and Bloomberg's Kailey Leinz is outside at the courthouse with details. Kailey.
Well, Shonali, as you said, this is the third time the former president will have been arraigned, and he is going to travel from New Jersey, from Newark Airport to Washington Reagan National Airport, and then travel here to the federal courthouse at 4 p.m. Eastern time is when we expect this arraignment to happen. He will be fingerprinted, and although the former president said on True Social earlier this afternoon that he will be arrested today, the U.S. Marshals say that is not the case. He will not be placed under arrest, as we have seen with some of his previous arraignments. Nonetheless, it is definitely a very significant day in history, as of course, as I mentioned, this is the third indictment and arraignment of the former president. These charges he is facing are quite serious, from conspiracy to defraud the U.S. to conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights, being the right to vote and the right to have one's vote counted. And if convicted on these charges, they could carry a penalty of up to 20 years in prison. This, of course, is just an example of the legal woes stacking up for the former president, and it's just yet another step in that today as he gets ready to appear here in Washington, D.C.
Kailey, in terms of the messaging from the former president in anticipation of this, what has been some of the communication from him, and how does that compare to some of those other recent events you've referenced?
Well, the messaging has stayed fairly consistent, both from the former president, his campaign, and his supporters, that this is an example of a corrupt Justice Department that is being weaponized against him as he is seeking the presidency once again in 2024. He, of course, is currently in the running to be the Republican nominee in the next presidential race, and they say this is part of a two-tier justice system that is being targeted toward him, less so toward, for example, members of the Biden family like Hunter Biden. That messaging has remained fairly consistent throughout, as we saw in the indictment in Miami, another federal case related to classified documents, and in the indictment in New York, where Alvin Bragg brought charges related to hush money payments paid to porn star Stormy Daniels. And what we have seen in this is this messaging does resonate with Trump's base of supporters. In both of his prior indictments, we had seen his poll numbers climb in the aftermath, and especially after he was indicted, that first indictment in New York, he raised millions of dollars off the back of that. It only seems to add to and galvanize his support when it comes to the primaries. The thought being, though, is that this would affect him more negatively in a general election. At this point, of course, he is the presumptive Republican nominee, as he is so far ahead in the polls. But with these legal challenges stacking up and trial dates that are going to interfere potentially with primary races, it's going to be definitely quite a challenge for the president to keep this up and, of course, to pay for it as well.